Welcome to the new show, The Music Roundup, on my BD Artist blog. So if you aren't familiar, please do go check it out on Instagram and on this page. All the links will be in the description. I've been honored to be presented with some of my musical friends across the world to talk about the latest in music news. So let's just dive straight in. Isabel, introduce yourself. I'm going to have a drum roll there.
Hi, I'm Isabel. I never know how to do this. Do you know there's always like the thing of like, how do you do this thing? I'm terrible at this. Hi, I'm Isabel and I'm terrible at introducing myself. That's probably a good way to start. I am a singer, songwriter. I do some vocal arranging stuff, which is always really fun. And have been involved in the music industry for a little bit, been involved in the events industry for a little bit longer, do some social media marketing bits and bobs, but I just really like talking about music as a whole. So if you get me started, we'll go for a long time.
Well, thank you for joining. This is the show to be on, right? And then the wonderful Kyla. Hey.
Well, my name is Kyla Tilley. I'm not on speaker. Oh well. My name is Kyla Tilley. I am a singer-songwriter and guitar player based in Newfoundland and Labrador, which is on the far east coast of Canada. I write a lot of songs. I write them live in front of an audience on Twitch. And I'm also just very excited about music in general.
Yes, I'm so grateful you both can join me today. You are super talented, so I'll have all their links in the description. But let's kick it off. So we had a bit of homework before we came and recorded this show, and that is to listen to Harry Styles' new album. Now, Harry Styles has a new album out called Harry's House. Let's start with, what's your favorite track off the album? Do you have one? I know mine. I'm just going to say mine. Clearly, I'm a fanboy now, so just going to give it to you. I like The Love of My Life. That's one of my faves. And Cinema. Those two, honestly. Okay, let me go back a few steps. I was not a Harry Styles fan at all. Didn't really care for One Direction. Liked Zayn's album, but I was like, representing us brown artists. But when it came to Harry, never was into it. Just not for any reason, but just wasn't into it. But when this album came round and I had a chance to listen to it, oh my God, this is a great album. I don't know if you guys had the same reaction, but I was super shocked at how good this was. Isabel, how was your experience listening to the album?
I have a lot of thoughts about this. I'm going to be honest with you. I've really worked through this like personally in my own time. But yes, similar, wasn't a massive fan of Harry Styles at the beginning. No offense to you, Harry, because I love you now. Was never really followed One Direction. Liked Zayn's album because it did what I thought he was going to do. So that was like really cool. I remember that Harry's first album came out while I was in uni. I think I was on my third year of uni. It's like 2017, 2018. That seems about right. And it came out. And I remember going, I don't like this album, but I need to keep an eye on this dude because I feel like something is coming that I haven't quite, like, it's not quite there yet, but there's something else is coming through. And we talked, I went to a music college, so we talked about it a lot at university and kind of talked about the marketing and what it looks like to be a manufactured artist and blah, blah, blah. So he's been on my radar since the first album came out because I was like, I need to keep an eye on you. I really like the second album. This album did everything that I wanted it to do. And then like a little bit more, which I'm very happy about. I think whoever his marketing and PR team are, like, hats off, awards, flowers. You deserve all of the stuff because the way that they've marketed this has been like fantastic. Incredible. I find it just fascinating. Favorite song is definitely Daylight. That's my jam. It was the first one on the album. Like, they are good, but it was the first one on the album that made me go, oh, okay. Like, which is, it's rare. It takes a little bit to shock me a little bit. And fix of that got me.
Kyla, what were your thoughts listening? I don't know if we are the target demographic. I mean, I feel like what I expected, let me just preface that. What I expected with Harry's music is all the teens, all the young girls to be into his music. That's where they kind of got their popularity through X Factor, and that's their target audience. I don't think either of us three would be the target audience, but I'm intrigued to know what your thoughts are, Kaya.
Yeah, well, it's so fun because it has never occurred to me to listen to Harry Styles in my life. And I'm vaguely aware that he was in a boy band, and that's like, I saw him in a couple of movies, and my husband was like, isn't he an actor? And it's like, oh yeah, yeah. We've seen him in movies. So I was quite surprised. So I listened to Harry's House and quite liked it. It's like, oh, okay. There's a little bit of there's a bit of grit in it. Like it's a pop album, but there's some grit underneath it. And I was like, oh wow, like, do I like Harry Styles? And then I checked out the new album, and it's like, man, like this sounds like a 70s album. Like the production doesn't, but the songwriting and the arrangements, I think there's like some Casio keyboard, but I think it really struck me as being a very 70s inspired album. And I didn't get so far as to choose a favorite song, but yeah, I was like, oh, I guess I like Harry Styles.
Yeah.
Like I'm gonna listen to it more.
I put up a story. I was like, "Is this embarrassing to say I'm a Harry Styles fan?" I'm not even sure. What do you think has brought in this new audience? What because I remember when he first debuted as a solo artist, there were some comparisons to some of the old 70s stars. I didn't think people paid too much attention to it because I think his fan base was still the same. But what do you think has brought in that new audience?
Think that they're pitching to, I think it's more than, I think one, I'm trying to break this down. I think one, it's more than the One Direction audience, which I think a lot of the other members of One Direction didn't do. Not that there's anything wrong with that, because I'm like, if you want to stay in your bag, stay in your bag. That's totally fine. But I think that it feels like anyway that there was an intentionality in not pitching to the One Direction audience because they know that they're going to listen to the first album anyway. So I think there was something in, which is why I find him quite fascinating anyway, in that I think that the way that they market him feels very long-term, like he's going to be around for a while. So we need to pitch this as he's older, he's doing different things, he's wearing different clothes, he fits in with this time, and then he fits in with these groups of people. I think, and then of course, when you then go into the acting career and him getting like way more serious roles, which is, I mean, let's not talk about Harry Styles' acting career because that baffles me profusely. I don't even understand how he's managed to get where he's got to. No offense to him. I think he's good. Sure, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, but I think there's a longevity to it. I think there's a lot of planning, and I guess that's kind of what I mean when I talk about manufactured artists, which that's not a negative thing because I think it works for some people really, really well. But I think there's a lot of planning and a lot of structure that goes around artists that labels decide that they want to put a lot of money into. And I think that what we see now had been planned for a while. I don't think this was just like, oh, I'm releasing an album and so we do this. I think even like the shifting in the clothes he wears and a lot of like the interviews that he does, and I think he's had a lot of control of that, but I think the way that he kind of conducts himself has shifted a lot because he's shifting the audience that he's moving into because they just stopped playing to the pop audience. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't really about that anymore, which I found very interesting.
I do think like labels have a very strategic mind that sometimes some other people don't really get what's happening, right? And I think you made a good point on the fact that he has an audience that will be quite loyal to him regardless. Sorry, Harry fans, but you will invest in that artist regardless of what the music is about or the genre or whatever. But I think as an observer, I feel like he's found his sound as an artist. Like he's really stepped into, okay, this is a space I can really, really work in. And this is the sound that I really want to develop going forward. That could be him or his label. I mean, I'm not too sure. Kyla, what are your thoughts about like finding your sound as an artist? And maybe less relevant artists like ourselves, do you think we have the freedom? We're going to be there one day, but not at the moment. But do you think we have the freedom to venture and still kind of take a fan base to another genre or another sound?
Yeah, I think we do. And I sort of feel like we have even more freedom to do that than say a big star that's had, a record company targeting a specific artist, a specific audience like someone like Harry Styles has. Um, but I sort of feel like and I think social media really helps artists in this way, is that you can sort of show a little bit more of yourself. Like I don't know how much of Harry Styles' real self we get to see,
Hmm.
whereas the three of us, we can very much be ourselves on our social media, and I think that helps people um, kind of understand, like, oh, like, we're growing as artists, we're growing as people, you know we are not maturing, but I think that kind of helps people connect and be like, oh, okay, like that phase is in the past now, and they wrote those songs, and that's great, but these new things are happening, and we've seen them happen because we've watched them, um, you know live stream it on Instagram or whatever, and we can understand that the artist has moved on, and
Hmm.
and some fans will follow an artist. Some fans will just really, really love an artist and follow them through thick and thin. And some will be like, okay, they've moved on. I'm off to find someone else. And I think if you're worried about that, you can't make art. You can't make your art if you're worried about, you know, losing and
Who's
gaining. I
Yeah.
think that's how I feel about it.
Yeah, no, I think you make a good point. I guess actually, as a bigger artist, you do have that support from labels, and you are able to kind of manipulate certain marketing tools to bring in a new audience and to capture old ones. But there's a lot of pressure, right? Because I think as individuals, as people who love expression in the way that we do, um, labels can sometimes add a lot of pressure to the direction you're heading. Which is a great tangent to the next topic that I want to discuss, which is all these social media platforms and how much pressure they add to artists, current, new, old, to kind of jump on. Recently, Halsey, Florence and the Machine, Charlie, XCX have all talked about their labels putting pressure on them to be on TikTok. In fact, I saw a TikTok from Halsey saying her record label would not release her music until she had a viral moment. Um, so it's very, very harsh, but it also puts a lot of pressure into going onto platforms that you don't really want to be on. And Adele's also spoken about that. Her target audience aren't people on TikTok. But now her label is like, can you jump on that? Have you guys at this level felt I need to be on a platform even though I don't really feel like I'm connected to it? Because I know I have, and TikTok is one of them. um, Isabel, what's your experience been with like having to use a social media platform?
Yeah, I mean, I have a very love-hate relationship with social media. There's a lot of stuff that I cannot stand about it. There's a lot of stuff that I love about it. Yeah, I joined TikTok. I didn't want to join TikTok for a lot of reasons. I was on TikTok. I didn't want to post on TikTok. I think I wanted to try and keep a social media platform that was like about me enjoying that platform and being on it because I wanted to enjoy the content on it, rather than it being about me having to produce content on it.
Mm,
And I think that's kind of what has ruined my relationship with Instagram, because I love Instagram as a platform. The concept I think is great, but I feel a lot of pressure to post and to post the right stuff, and it gets very, very complicated. And yeah, so I think it's taken me like a I was going to say a year and a half, but it's probably longer than that to actually post stuff on TikTok. And even then, I'm not a fan. I don't want to do
mm,
it. It's just like another thing. But I think similar, like I would have got rid of Facebook years ago, um, if I didn't need to have a Facebook page to tick the box. Not that anyone
right.
cares, but if someone asks, I need to say that I've got it. Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think it's interesting that we're hearing from these big artists, you know what I mean, that we're hearing from, it wouldn't surprise me, because we do hear from the smaller artists who are talking about the pressure of trying to keep up with these trends and the actual genuine need for a viral moment, because that can literally make or break your career. Do you know what I mean? In terms of, it can't really break it, but it can make it. And it can significantly change a lot of stuff in your music career if you manage to seize this viral moment, particularly on TikTok or like Reels, which are the more recent developments. But I think hearing from bigger artists that they're experiencing the same pressure, for me, I find baffling. I just don't, not to say, because they are humans and obviously we all have our own problems and issues, but it's more to do with the fact that I find it baffling that that record labels are trying to force viral moments for artists that have a solid fan base. Do you know what I mean? And actually, surely the priority should be obviously keeping and maintaining, but being able to create something of quality for the fan bases that is there. Like the amount of artists that would love to just have a guaranteed million people, do you know what I mean, who will listen to your songs, or like a guaranteed sold out concert, all of that kind of stuff. And yet I feel like the labels are really fighting to kind of like, to push these artists to do more. And I think there is a little bit of, for me, where I'm like, why do they need to do more? Like, leave them.
I think, you know what it is? It's all to do with money, right? The more money they can make, the more they're going to try and drive these things. So whether you're an established artist or not, I think honestly, it's viral moments. I think people get really excited about them because I think, you've got visibility amongst people that you may not reach, right?
Yeah.
But that's not necessarily a good thing, because you aren't able to kind of maintain that fan base. You aren't able to reproduce some of the work that's captivated. You could, but that's also, then you'd have to modify your whole creativity in that space. And I know I have somebody who works within a label, and some of their like briefs are now, we don't just want this to be promo for your single, but we want music to be TikTok friendly. We need you to make music to be TikTok friendly. So that's crazy in itself. Kyla, what are your opinions about that? I know you've recently kind of started your Twitch streams, and I know that's a new platform. I'm going to link that in the description. She's amazing. Go check that out. But how has that been for you? Like, have you had to modify how you approach that platform compared to everything else?
Well, it's funny. I could tell you that like I didn't want to be on MySpace. I'm that old, and like put it off. And then I was like, oh, I have to be on MySpace. So I got a MySpace, and it went under. And then I got on Facebook because I couldn't book gigs anymore, because you couldn't book a gig if you didn't have a Facebook to share the event. And so I've kind of like, I got to get over that and jump on these things. Twitch is really natural for me. I had no problems getting on Twitch. And actually, as soon as Twitch started streaming music, they opened it up, because it used to only be for gaming, and they opened it up for music. And I was like, oh, I should consider streaming on Twitch. And then like 6 years later, there was a pandemic, and it was like no time like the present. And I discovered, like, I think I had really just thought, oh, this is a place for performance. But then I discovered, no, it's not a place. I mean, it is, but it could also be a place where I just do my thing, and I just do my thing in front of other people. So I started just being like, okay, I'm just going to stream half an hour every day of whatever it is I happen to be working on. So sometimes it's like, well, like I need to prepare a score for this song. And so that's the type of thing I was doing. And it's like, oh, people like that stuff. People are interested in seeing these behind the scenes things. So it really worked out. Twitch has really worked out well for me, because it's like, here's a time and a place. I'm just going to show up and do my work, and I'm going to chat with the people that show up. I'm going to sort of hold court in my studio. TikTok, I'm good with long form, and TikTok confuses me, but I am trying to embrace it.
I think actually you make a fair point, because you haven't had to adjust your content to meet the demands of like the industry, right? You're actually just being yourself. For me, that's like the YouTube space. I feel like when I am vlogging, although it's a lot of work and you have to be on front of camera, it's a bit cringe and whatever, but it's just me. Like I'm not trying to achieve anything. There's no goal in how I'm doing. When you're on TikTok, I feel like I need to be funny. I feel like I need to be really engaged.
Can I ask,
Yes.
this is linked because we're going back. Can I ask then, do we think that I guess I'm talking specifically about like labels kind of pushing or forcing artists into creating viral moments, particularly on TikTok, but I think that extends to other stuff. How much of that do you feel is linked to or off the back of like the success of, I guess, artists on social media? But I guess I'm thinking specifically about these artists that kind of came out of nowhere. So like when Driver's License came out, right, by Olivia Rodrigo, that was quite a massive moment. And I remember having a conversation with a friend of mine who works in radio, and they were just saying about how it's really thrown a lot of the radio stations, because suddenly what's in the charts is being dictated by social media, and no one was really prepared for it to that extent, because that hadn't really happened before. Like there were songs that got bigger, but they were already out. Whereas for this one, it was like, it's the first video up. It's been out for what, like a day, and it broke a record, and then it broke its own record. And then obviously that's then played into her having quite massive success with an album. It was the whole reason she was able to record the album in the first place, was because of all this support that's come from that moment in TikTok. And I guess I kind of wonder how much that particular situation, but I'm sure there are other situations like that, then play into these labels going, well, we also want this success, and we also want, you know, like we want the artist to be successful, but like you said, it's about money, like to an extent. And so we want the money to come in, like what that looks like.
I was just going to say, on the flip side of what we said before, of like, you know, going viral is not necessarily a good thing or a bad thing. It does mean that you've connected with a lot of people. Like the music is speaking for itself. Of course, there are times where it's related to like a meme or a certain action. Like there's one by, I think her name is Gail, the ABCDEFU and your mum, or whatever the song is called. But that went kind of viral because of some of the TikTok like comedy that was happening. But for the most part, these musicians are able to connect with an extremely wide audience across the globe. So I think labels are seeing that actually an artist who is unknown in the middle of nowhere is able to create music that is relatable, which we all hope we can do, to an extremely wide audience. And I do like the fact that we're flipping the industry on its head a little bit. You know, they're not dictating to us what we should be doing. And that's genre wise, that's, you know, what's popular mainstream now is social media. It's not what's on the radio. So I think even the impact of radio has kind of diminished as well. Like how many of us do listen to radio as often as we did growing up? I remember listening to radio every day in the mornings as I was traveling to school. Kiss 100 breakfast show. I was such a fan. Like I was a huge fan of that show. Now, the last time I listened to radio was kind of like when my friend was doing a show on there or doing an interview. It's not the same thing anymore.
So then I guess I'm wondering, trying to be more specific, do you then feel like, and I feel like Kyla, you might have some thoughts on this anyway, but do you then feel like labels are trying to get the big well-known artists to be able to keep up with these unknown artists that are just sprouting up everywhere? Do you know, particularly on TikTok, that we're ending up with these crazy viral songs from people that like most people have never heard before? I'm thinking about like the two girls, Barlow and Bear, who won a Grammy for Best Musical because they made a musical about Bridgerton on TikTok. Do you know what I mean? And they literally they made a whole album and it was Bridgerton the musical. And they're now doing these massive Broadway shows and writing scores and songs and all this kind of stuff. And one of them has like a pop career and that's massively blown up. But that's TikTok. Do you know what I mean? And we weren't seeing this 2 years ago. And suddenly it's suddenly everywhere. It's not just one person. It's like multiple people coming kind of out of nowhere. And I wonder if that's kind of thrown a lot of
I think so. I think that our traditional gatekeepers of the music labels, like when streaming came about, when downloads came about, they did their best to stop it all, and it hurt them. Like, it drove them all out of business. And I think that they learned from that and are like, we have to go with the changes and embrace the changes instead of fighting against it. And they're seeing their power being eroded by social media, because now you can write your musical on TikTok and get it out to the whole world. And I think they are learning that, okay, if we're going to keep our artists relevant, like, we have to make sure that they are doing these same things that, all these other people who are getting popular without us are doing.
It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen for us one day. I do also want to say, like, without plugging.
Oh, that was the label being sad, not me. That was the label being like, I didn't make this person a star.
Not us also being sad. But I'm gonna also say on that, like, we are all musicians, and I've connected with musicians from now with this blog from all across the world, like places that I could never imagine because of social media. And I always say that as much as you don't think that you're doing any small artist a favor by putting it on your story or by liking and engaging with their content, it makes a huge difference. Like, the ball is in our court now. Whereas I feel like 5 years ago, the labels really did kind of, I don't want to name artists because I'm going to get their fans attack me, but there are certain artists that will always be relevant because they have a huge push within the industry, and they may not be as talented or as, they've got like a whole team of songwriters, producers working for them. Now, if you want to support Isabel's new EP, when it comes out, like, you can make it a moment for her. You can support artists like in a way that you couldn't before. So, and it's free and easy to do. So, not to do that as a last message, but I just think we've just changed the whole industry in terms of now we are in control. It's not the radios, it's not the labels, it's you and I. Let's do this, guys. One, I think, interesting topic, Isabel, you chose for talking today was about taking breaks. And I think this is a super important one because this can head into many different directions. But I want to ask you firstly, have you taken a break from music so far? And if so, why? Let's start with you, Isabel.
Yeah, I took a break in 2021. And I basically, I didn't do anything really musical. There was other stuff going on in the background, but I up front, I think I released like a remix at the beginning of the year, and that was it. And like, didn't release anything else. It wasn't intentional. That's not what I had necessarily planned, but I think I'm glad it happened, because I think it gave me a lot of space to think about what I'm doing musically, why I'm doing it, and like what I actually would like to be doing and what the goal is and what my message is. I mean, it's all the cliches that every artist, when I dove deep into myself and I took some time to become introspective and reflect on my life and all that kind of stuff. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying, some cliches are cliche because they're true. I think it gave me a lot of time and space to kind of just reflect. There's another word, but I can't think of the other word. And just figure out what I'm doing and why I'm doing it and what I would actually like to do and how to get to that point. And just plan better. I think I went into music. I started out in music very quickly, and I made a lot of like very quick decisions, and it had kind of been nonstop from that point. And so I'd never actually stopped and gone, oh, hey, let's think about this next project and how you'd like it to be received. And so how are we going to, if you've got the end goal, how are you going to get to that point, and everything else. So technically I'm still on a break if we're going into it. Technically it's been a year and a half. But
I don't think you have, though. You've been working so hard behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, actually, it's it's not like you have taken a break because you are still working, but I do understand that you've thought about music introspectively, like
Yeah,
what it means to you.
yeah, and I think that there is pressure, particularly in music, but I think in the arts in general, um, when people take breaks. And I
Hmm.
think there is there's a lot to think about. So I guess for me, I feel very aware that when I do next release music, even though I released a single in January. When I do next release, like my next thing or the next single or whatever that is, it's gonna be have been a significant amount of time. And so therefore there's I need to rebuild people's expectations. But then also on top of that, I think my expectations are higher because I've had more time. And so I think it's trying to like balance that out and turn that into something, utilize it in a good way rather than making it feel
Mm.
pressured. Do you know what I mean? And I think for some, particularly for smaller artists, taking breaks can be very, very dangerous. Or can feel very, very dangerous. It can really feel like you're playing with fire because it's like either this could be very, very beneficial to me, but really, really bad for my career, or this could be beneficial to me and actually I could do something amazing with this and I can come back with a bang and it can completely like redefine. Like I know a few of my friends who've taken extended breaks have come back with like a new genre. Sometimes it's under a new artist name and it's like this is a brand new project and we're going for this now, and it's a whole different vibe. So I think there are wins to it, but there's a lot of thought and intentionality that has to go with that.
Mm.
More so when you've got a smaller following, which I think is hard.
Kyla, have you taken a break from music? Oh
Never.
no,
Yeah,
never. Wow.
I've always like, why would you do that?
I'm in
No,
Wow.
oh
I've
my
changed.
gosh.
I've changed. I've certainly been in like I didn't do Kyla Tilley singer-songwriter for a period of 10 years at one point, but I was playing in other bands, and um I've sort of, with the pandemic, I've become I'm not going to play in a bunch of bands person anymore, and I'm just going to kind of focus on the
You.
couple projects that are really near and dear to me, because
Yeah.
I definitely have been involved in too many projects at once
Mm.
over the years. So,
That's
but yeah, no,
that's super interesting.
I've always been doing something with music.
I mean, I'm impressed. I feel like you need a round of applause for that.
Honestly,
I
I mean,
don't know how to do anything else.
I love it. That's so cool.
I'm
no,
completely useless at everything
I'm
else.
I'm sure that's not true. I'm sure that's not true. But to
That's
be
what people say, but you don't know.
they're haters. They're haters. No, I think it's interesting because for me as well, I feel like I'm a baby in the industry. Like I haven't really had time to say, oh, I took years out and I've worked on so many different projects. But I've already felt that burnout. I think for me it was 2021 also. Um, I just released a couple of singles, but I felt the pressure of not going back to the previous topic, but being a content creator, which is my day job, and also being a musician. So I felt the pressure of like I need to be on consistently, and it didn't give me time to really enjoy and relish those moments. Like actually, in a short while, you've been able to achieve X, Y, and Z. And for me, breaks were super important because it got me to think introspectively, like you said, Isabel, but also just breathe. I feel like sometimes you need space to just be like, I need to breathe, take my time and come back with it. But I think it's equally impressive that actually music is your life, Kyla, and like you've been able to not let it kind of feel like it's a overbearing or overwhelming task to do. So for the most
There's
part, for
certainly
the
some
most part.
overwhelm. There's certainly some overwhelm, but yeah, it's, and I
I
think
guess
right before you go ahead.
sorry, go no no go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, right before the pandemic, I remember looking at my schedule because in March 2020, to head on like the second leg of my tour for my last album, and I had been like, I was I was singing in a choir, I was uh, playing in a couple bands, I was dancing in a Alice Cooper tribute band. Like I just like had all these things, and I remember looking at my schedule for the summer and being like, it's going to be really nuts for 3 months. And in September, I'm going to burn out. And it was just like, woo, that's the plan. Like, I'm not going to book anything in September. And I didn't go on tour, and I stayed home and played video games for 3 months. And then it was like, okay, this is still going on, I guess.
Wow.
So what do you do for, I feel like music for a lot of people is like a bit therapeutic, right? So what is your switch off from music?
Video games.
Video games.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Video games, running. Yeah, running.
It's interesting. I feel like I need to get a hobby.
Yeah. I don't remember what it was that, well, the video games, I'm kind of like, I'm not a big gamer, and I really I like 2 video games. I just play them obsessively. But maybe like 4 or 5 years ago, like I had rehearsals every night, and I was living in Montreal. So when you're not having a rehearsal, it's like a show or a talk, or there's a dinner, like there's something happening. So I was like, Sunday is Souls Day, and I'm not booking, unless I'm on the road. I'm not booking anything on Sundays, and I'm going to stay home, and I'm going to get up at 7 a.m. and I'm going to play Dark Souls for 14 hours. And that's what I did every Sunday for 2 years. And I have kept that up, and I'm like still, and periodically I have to book something on a Sunday, and it throws my week completely. But it was just like, there's 6 days of like complete stuff just happening constantly. And then this one day where like nobody talks to Kyla. And it's glorious. I highly recommend doing that.
I love that. It's a bit like a self-care day, right? It's just like, actually,
absolutely.
it's my time.
It was just like, and I was like, I have to instigate this, or else. Yeah.
I think there's something like very wise about like being protective about your rest days. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And like, I'm saying this as someone who's not good at it. I'm not good at resting or taking a break or breathing as a whole. But I think that like my mother, who is a phenomenal woman, and we love her, I'll never say a bad word about that woman because she's fantastic, but she works very hard, and she does lots of different kind of things, and is constantly on the go, but she's really protective over her rest days. So Sundays she wakes up when she wants to wake up, and she doesn't cook because she doesn't feel like cooking on that day, so someone else has to cook, or she gets takeout or something like she only does the things that she wants to do for that entire day. And if you ask her like, can you do this thing, she's like, it's a Sunday, so no. Like, do I want to do it? No, I don't want to do it. It's like the end of the conversation. And for her, that's like, it's almost scheduled in like work would be. Do you know what I mean? It's like that, it's those kind of things. And I think the long-term effects of that, do you know what I mean? Of being able to go, I have managed to avoid burnout because I have at least one rest day or day of like calm or fun. Do you know what I mean? Something that just gives me all the serotonin that I need to get me through the next week. I think that, the long-term effects of that is just crazy.
I think it's great. I think it's great. And also as entertainers, I feel like we need to be on consistently. When I'm talking to anyone, doing interviews, doing music, you have to be sparkly and bright and happy. But sometimes you're like, oh, I just want to nap for like 10 hours, you know? And I think the fact that actually, like you said, Isabel, your mother, and also Kyla, yourself, you've taken the time to fit that into your schedule. I think it's super important. We schedule every other part of our lives, but we don't schedule our mental health and self-care, which is bizarre to me. But I feel like that's a great message to end on. I know we have a few more topics that we can explore next time, but thank you ladies so much for joining. I know, Kyla, you have your Twitch stream to get to. But yes, thank you so much. Any final words, any final messages?
Listen
to the fans out there.
Album. There you go. That's your homework. You can come back to us and tell us what you think.
Tell us in the comments.
There you go.
Thank you, ladies. Take care.
Bye. Bye. Bye.